Yo, what's up, everybody? How you doing? It's your man Jay Kevin here with Leif Taylor, just having our regular conversation about all things health, wealth, relationships, happiness, and everything in between. Current events, topics, whatever's going on in our lives and in your life, and so whatever's going on around the world. Today, Leif, we're going to have an open conversation, so which means that I'm going to be all over the place pretty much. We're going to go down so many rabbit trails. I don't even know where we're going to go, but we are going to start with the concept of the practice, and what kind of got me thinking about this like right now is that I started reading or listening to Seth Godin's new book, The Practice, which you
Okay.
put me on the trail of.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
last
Yep,
show.
yep, yep.
So when you mentioned that, I went to go check it out because Seth Godin has turned out to be one of my favorite amongst many writers and thinkers as far as culture and where we are today, and where we are as a culture, and where are some good places we should go versus where the social engineers are
Yeah, yeah,
wanting to lead us. So I think that Seth Godin is beautiful. He's graceful, which is one of his words, as far as maneuvering through treacherous waters and kind of just maneuvering through um, being level-headed. I guess you could say being
yeah.
very insightful. Given
Pragmatic.
he's very pragmatic and he's just graceful at what he does. Given that, just from his readings, I know that he has a very deep understanding about culture and how culture is shaped, and how those who are contained and containers that has culture in it, how it influences us and moves us, and how it affects us on an individual level when it comes to our lives and living meaningful and purposeful lives. So with all that said, I went to go check out the book, and I didn't get finished with it, but I started reading through it. I haven't finished it, but some of the themes and some of the ideas that come out of it is pretty good. For example, some of the surprising ideas in the book include things like skill is not the same as talent. Um, you
Right.
know, a good process can lead to good outcomes, but it doesn't guarantee them, which
Yep.
is something that you have to come to grips with as you get older. Just because you're doing all the right things, life has a way. Doesn't mean that you're guaranteed a good outcome. Perfectionism has nothing to do with being perfect. Reassurance is futile. Hubris is the opposite of trust. Attitudes are skills. There's no such thing as writer's block, which he harps on a lot, and he kind of stays on
Yeah.
that for,
He talks about that a whole lot.
yeah, and that's when you first hear it, you're like, what? Because you hear so many great writers and so many people say that
Something,
they get
Wando.
writer's block. But hey, Mwando, what's up? But just listening to him and reading him and him hashing out that idea, that thought, you have to come to grips with there is no such thing as writer's block, and that you have to stay on something when writing. You have to stay at it, and this is something I know to be true in my personal life, that if you don't stay at it, man, that skill, not only writing but just
Just
writing is
anything that requires some level of skill.
everything in life has a requires some level of skill, and if you don't stay at it, it's amazing how fast it can go away. And like I said, I know this from personal experience, in that if I'm not constantly writing, or for me, if I'm not constantly talking, then it becomes even more difficult. Like when we do these shows, I noticed that if if I spend a lot of time not talking, then it becomes difficult to get on here and just start talking. Uh, You know what I'm saying? If you don't have that, if you're not primed, if you're not that kind of person, then it can definitely be difficult. But just thinking about writing and the process of whatever skill it is you wanted to develop, you have to stay on it. Mwando, I got something to say about that writer's block. Well, Seth Godin does too, and he says to stay at it, whether you feel like it is your best work or not. If you just stay at it every day. Um, which as a sidebar is a good way to use your social media platforms just
Yep.
as a way to practice the skill of thinking, writing, expressing yourself, and allowing yourself to just get your thoughts out there in a coherent and articulate way, which is something I think that we all desire at some level, that we all desire to express ourselves, to be heard, and to be understood, which is why social media is so popular, right? We all have opinions and we have thoughts and we like to express them. We like to get the feedback. We like to see the likes. We don't like to see the not likes, the thumbs down. So, yeah, just thinking about that. And then professionals produce with intent. So that's an idea that really stuck out to me, especially with respect to an article that you had sent me a while back, just a couple of days ago, about tracking your time. And
Yeah, that was yesterday. Yeah, yeah.
in that article, the writer talked about when they tracked their time, they became more intentional about their time, which, with respect to being, a professional, you become mature and you become, you become to the next level when it comes to managing your time and not allowing your schedule to manage you. Again, that's something I had to come to terms with them as I grew up. That somebody told me that you should always have a calendar, whether it be a physical one or whether it be one in your phone or whatever. You should always be tracking your time because time can get away from you. And ever since then, in some way, shape, or form, I've uh, uh, always come back to the practice of like getting a sheet of paper and like the person said in the article, like on one side putting your days and at the top putting your time, and then looking at blocks of time of where you spend and
Yep.
and pay attention and spend your time at. That's definitely helpful.
Yeah, real quick, what was the name of that book? Is it The Practice by Seth Godin?
Yeah, it's the practice by
Okay.
Seth Godin. Um, let's see. He talks, and one of
Oh,
the things about
real
Seth.
quick before you go on. So yeah, anybody, if you're watching, I actually created my own time tracking template uh, in a Google Doc. So it's actually like a Google sheet, like an Excel sheet. So if you'd like that, let me know in the comments, and I'll make it available to everybody.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
You
go
you
ahead.
don't you ain't gonna charge like 99 cents for it or nothing?
Nah.
All right. So it's on the house.
Yep.
Um, I was just saying that, halfway jokingly, but serious too, and that that's one of the things I noticed that's real popular today is a lot of people are uh, making and selling templates, whether it be on a
Yep.
Google Doc or whatever.
Yep. Yep.
So it's just a good way if, to donate, 99 cents, just to say, hey, thanks for spending the time to put this together for me so I could take it and run with it. But yeah, going back to some of the ideas in the book, passion is a choice. Passion is a choice.
Yep.
Creativity is an act of leadership. Leaders are imposters. Leaders are imposters. What do you think about that? Uh, in the book, he hashes that out in that a lot of times that a lot of people, many people in leadership positions, they feel like they have that imposter syndrome or that imposter feeling that they feel like that they're not up to fulfilling the shoes of the position that they hold. And a lot of times that's something that a lot of leaders, that's a feeling that a lot of leaders have, that if you didn't ask or if you didn't like really know about that, you would think that a lot of people would think that they were on the only ones when they were in leaders when they're in leadership positions to feel like that they shouldn't be there or that they are an imposter. So I think that that's something that a lot of people deal with, and that's something that I know to be true in my personal life. That there's been many times I found myself in leadership positions, having the feeling that I shouldn't be there, or that I'm not worthy enough, or I'm not up to the standard or the level to be in a leadership position.
Right.
When the reality is that we all are leaders in some way, shape, or form in our lives, and we all are followers and learning too. So just accepting and dealing with that feeling and that thought can go a long way when it comes to being in a leadership position. Yeah, imposter syndrome. That's so true. Yeah, that's definitely, I don't know. That's something I think a lot of people deal with, and if you don't, if people in leadership positions don't express that, then it's hurtful to a lot of people, and that they
Yeah.
think that they're the only ones when you're not
And
the
I
only.
think that goes into the whole marketing as well. I got to bring up the marketing word in
Oh
terms of
yeah,
how we, you know, I guess build up positions and titles
yeah,
regardless of what they come in, because if you think about it, everything is really a service of some form or another, right? And so is leadership or whatever, is just a position just like anything else. And just like just about anything else in life, you can learn to keep up or do stuff. And I don't know, plus, like, when I always think about these things in terms of the context of the Western mindset, right? The United
yeah,
States kind of mindset, in the sense that we get so wrapped up in who our job titles are or what we do, that we talk about those things as if they're us. You know what I mean? So it's
Why
like,
is that?
I mean, it's just part of just the culture. It's part of the marketing culture. It's part of, the whole idea of prestige and those kinds of things. I always think about the Chris Gardner statement, the guy from Pursuit of Happiness. He said the guy that makes 80,000 a year has more ego than the guy that makes 80,000 a month, right? And it's
Love
because his personality and everything is wrapped up in the facade of his position and things like that. And so sometimes when we talk about like leadership, we talk about uh, whatever, and that's not a constant in everybody's life. And I don't think people realize that. So just because, say I'm a CEO of a company, well, when I go to this other organization, or when I walk into the store, I'm a customer. I'm no longer that CEO person. I'm now a customer, somebody, and so it just changes based on where we are, in what environments we're in. You may be a leader in one aspect of life, and then in another aspect you're not. Just those kinds of things, and it's really a fluid position that we don't necessarily think about all the time. We don't quantify that. Like, okay, like, think about it. You may be CEO, but when you go home, you might be son or daughter, right?
yeah,
So that leadership is taking a notch down in the sense of your positioning in whatever given situation that you're in. It is really environmental changes. As your environment changes, so does your position.
yeah. So does your position and the reach of your
Yeah.
position, and maybe the dynamics, and uh, the description of your position, that leadership position changes. Huh. And some other things. All criticism is not the same,
Yep.
which can be a hard thing to accept, and that criticism from one person may not mean something, versus from somebody else it may have some meaning to it. So
I
just
agree, Wando.
learning how to decipher criticism. Wando says it comes down to this: the story you're telling yourself. Yeah, narratives, inner dialogue, and the
Yep.
narratives that we have going, which is what Seth Godin really hammers at, is the narrative that we're all indoctrinated to have, as far as, like you said, the culture
Yep.
that we're marketed and we're indoctrinated with, versus the one that we have to sit down and block out some time and spend some time thinking about some of those inner dialogues that we have, so that we can find the ones that aren't isn't serving us, and reinforcing and bringing to the forefront, or shoring up the ones that do serve us. Like just learning like learning how to deal with and categorize and identify which criticism is valid and we should
Yep.
maybe think about and consider. And just thinking about the criticism, or you can just kind of brush off to the side and just let it roll off your back. We talk about that a lot, and one of the things I like about our conversation is we do get into the nuance of some of the things that that's one of the things I like about our conversation is that we go into the nuance and we bring light, or we kind of hash out some of the things that uh, is often taken for black and white in
Yeah,
our
yeah, yeah.
culture, which is one of the tactics of marketing and
Of
just one
course.
of the things of our culture is to paint everything as black and white, right or wrong, and not giving time or room for the color in between, so that you can look at some things from different angles and perspectives and find the things that serve you and that maybe you can use, and putting back on the shelf the things that
Yep.
that don't
Yeah,
serve you that you can't use.
because they want you to get rid of critical thinking and act on
Yes.
impulses and emotions and those kinds of things.
Yeah, critical thinking. That's very essential in today's world. You said that, I was thinking about. I had the thought of just we have to continually ask questions, and one of the things we talk about is following the links when it comes to the online world and chasing down things and uh, constantly and consistently asking questions and consistently consuming information that 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 can help you in when it comes to making everyday decisions. It's a and also having friends and family that do the same,
Yep.
and so that you don't have to be the expert in all areas, which is humanly impossible, but you have a community of people who are expert in their own way and in their own areas of human endeavor.
Yeah, and also that stuff is just it's a constant state of flux, right? You
Yeah,
know, just you make your decisions based on the information that you currently have, but that
yeah.
information may change, and so will your decision. Essentially based on that changing information. So
And giving yourself room enough to consider and pivot and be able to change and not
yeah, all of that.
block yourself into a corner to where you kind of die on a soapbox or issue. It's like, nah, it's like, I thought you was this, Kevin. What happened, bruh? Like, well,
I
can I
got more information. I realized I was wrong. The information I got was faulty.
and
Yeah,
giving somebody else room enough, to save
yeah.
face or
Likewise. Yep.
yeah, giving somebody else grace to kind of uh, to pivot and go a different direction too. Um, oh, look at Kevin. He's a flip flopper, the flip flopping guy.
Yeah, that's funny. You saying that makes me think about how we take in the tactics that work against us and utilize them on other people in terms of marketing. Like you said, you make everything black and white. There's no gray areas, and
It works.
we yeah, we take that and then we point it at somebody else. We don't want to point it at ourselves, of course. We want to point it at other people and make arguments based off of just sometimes just loose, random stuff that's just dumb. Like when you sit back and think about it, it's like this whole conversation is dumb. It, I don't know,
I'm
man.
laughing because I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's like
It's like sometimes I don't even want to go there, but you're in a
yeah,
situation. It's like, okay, let's just go this way then.
yeah. It's like how did we get here? It's like what the heck is going on? So yeah, man. It's just real wild. Blame it on the culture.
The devil made me do it.
Exactly. Anyway,
Uh,
keep going. I don't know if you were done or not.
no. I got two more. Some of the other concepts in the book is that we become creative when we ship the work, which is
Yep.
important.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah.
Uh, Creating and then just shipping, meaning you just put it out there and you let it go.
Yep.
Like when I'm thinking about shipping, I'm thinking about you when you draw and you put it out to the world and you just let it go and you just whoever receives it, whoever it resonates with, whatever happens, it's not completely yours anymore. it now belongs to the world, and you let people have it. So, and which helps keeps you creative in that it keeps you just constantly producing. That's something I realized when I was learning how to uh, play like the keyboard or something when
Yep.
I was younger. Is that you have to have what's known as shed sessions where you get with other musicians and you just give your stuff away,
Yeah. Yeah.
and just let stuff go, and it constantly keeps you on the ball as far as like being even more creative, getting better, being even more inspired and stuff like that. Because I can remember when I first started and I wanted to learn, there were some musicians or some people who would like try to hide the hands, hide the chords. You'd be like, really, you don't own the chord, you know?
Yeah.
Like, no, me trying to look at my chords, man. You know. And then there were some musicians who I'm thinking about, one in particular who just give stuff away. It just made them, next time you see them, it made them even better because they gave all the
Yep.
good stuff away. So they had to grow and find, get better at what they were doing.
Yeah.
So
It's
just
about
thinking
the.
about,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, just thinking about being creative and how it's important to really ship it and not being afraid to just put it out there. I know that when I first got on social media, I found it to be uh, I found myself to be hesitant about it because
Yep.
you don't know what kind of reception you're going to get. But after time, when you practice it, you develop skin, and you develop resilience, and you develop grit, and you develop things that can help you grow and stay creative. So just thinking about social media, but that applies to all areas of our life too.
Yeah, like you said, it's all about one sharing, and also two, like I found this out to be true for myself in terms of dealing with clients, in terms of just doing anything. The sooner you can get it out of your hands and into the hands of someone else. What's up, Mike? Then the
Hey,
sooner
Mike.
you can get feedback on it. Because for a lot of people, sometimes feedback is scary. You mentioned that Seth Godin said that not all criticism is the same. And so one thing that we used to call it hot potato, like get it out of our house into somebody else's and let them deal with it. And in terms of, like, for example, when I work on like a new project, when I work on things, and I'm not sure of what direction they're trying to go, I'll show sketches like immediately. Like I'll show just my initial thoughts. I don't care what it looks like. I'll just show it. So that way we have a premise to move forward and build upon. We used to do the same thing with software. Make something as quick as possible, get it out there, and let the people give us feedback on what needs refinement, right? And so doing that, like with art, doing that in a whole yeah, you do, bro. He said
Jay
the
Kevin,
mouth
why
said you
you
look
look cold?
cold.
I just because I'm so cold. Nah, I came in from outside and I just never took my stuff off. I sat down and just got on.
Uh, and so, but yeah, but just sharing that stuff, and like you said with social media, it was kind of the same way. Like initially, I mean, now everybody's adjusted to it, but initially going on social media can be abrasive, in the sense of as soon as you put it out there, any and everybody can attack what you have to say or give you feedback and all of that kind of stuff. Uh,
Yeah,
so man,
be aware of when when you was talking. You just made me think of like the different platforms and just
yep,
being mindful of the psychology
oh
on
yeah,
each of these
yep,
platforms.
yep.
Some platforms are more brutal than others if you're a little timid or whatever.
Yeah, but even to some degree, not to the extent that they go to at all times, but to some
Yeah,
degree, having negative feedback is good to
yeah,
some degree. In doses, I'll put it like that, in doses. But it really boils down to the kind of environment you were, like, I'll just say brought up in terms of, for some people, feedback is edifying, and for other people, all they receive is negative feedback, so it's not edifying, even though it's meant to be. You know what I'm saying? So so just be mindful of your own psychology before you walk into these environments. Like Kevin said, understand what's going on whatever platform you're in. And if it's something that that's sacred to you, just share it in a safe place, whether that be within your immediate family, within a group on social media or whatever. Just find safe places to where you can build up your tolerance and those kinds of things.
Man, yeah, that's definitely key. And I think that one of the reasons that I think, this conversation is important is that we live in a world now where we are capable of having those communities and those groups and those circles to where we can kind of explore and then kind of hone and perfect some of the things that's in our hearts and minds as far as being a creative and wanting to express ourselves. I think that this moment in time that we live in, it seems to be just to me a window that at some point I think will close as far as the opportunity for an individual to express themselves in a full manner. Does that make sense? Just looking at the world that we live in, the culture that we live in right now, this seems to be a window in which I'm thinking about people in the past. Like I'm thinking about my father and grandfather. It's like, nah, boy, what are you talking about? Creative and expressing. You get up, you go to work, and that's it. You pay your bills. You're talking about creative and all this kind of stuff. Nobody got time for that. But we live in a world now to where you can get on, if there's something that you want to do, the opportunity to do it is so much more
Gotcha.
readily available. Like, I don't know, man, you pick something, and so you can make a career out of it, whether it be if you like
Yeah, I
peanut
mean,
butter,
I
whatever.
always say the fact that Subway makes money from making sandwiches, as
Yeah.
long as that still exists, then there's opportunity to make money from anything.
No, yeah, not only make money, but if that's in your heart to make the best sub, you know,
Or
and
even a
people want to
mediocre
take.
sub.
I
People
mean,
buy
whatever.
mediocre stuff all the time. I mean, it's true. Just think about it. You got Dollar General stores. I mean, people, yeah, and so and that's something else in terms of just keeping, your mind open to try new things. Uh, is because it doesn't have to be perfect. Because again, you got to think the difference between Apple and the Dollar General store, right?
Yeah,
Dollar General store is not definitely not on the market share of Apple. However, they still have their audience and they make millions anyway. And so it's that same kind of thing, just taking this money aside, just like you said, just value, there's value in just offering your services and your gifts to the world in some form of capacity, as long as you're constantly putting it out there.
yeah. When you said that, you made me think of the idea we just went over talking about perfectionism has nothing
It's
to do
true.
with being perfect.
Yep.
Mike says this target marketing is next level. Yeah, this targeting market is next level. I seen a post uh, that somebody said that if you're having trouble finding something on the internet,
Yeah, I
just
saw
mention
that.
it in
Yeah.
the conversation, and Facebook
Yeah.
will have it, in your feed in a few,
Oh yeah.
So yeah, the marketing is next level. I was listening to a show to where a guy was talking about how just a few years ago that Target could tell if one of the customers was pregnant or not.
Yeah.
It
Just
was,
based off the spending habits.
yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff they could tell, and that was like before things really became next level. Like when I used to work at a big box store, we would have meetings and stuff, and I knew that Wednesday morning at before around 10 or whatever was the best time to market to the house mom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, stuff like that, and
You start seeing
I,
patterns.
yeah, it's patterns and just data and information that's available and stuff. And next level is getting, like we have AI examining and
Yeah.
analyzing
Yep.
patterns. So that's next level. And they, even more next level than that is, if quantum computing comes online and
If quantum computing happens the way that they say is going to happen, then no information is safe.
No, yeah, no information is
Nothing is
safe,
safe.
and the level or the number of uh, realizations that comes out of it, especially just thinking about all the data that has been stored up that really can't be analyzed right now. But once AI, once Skynet comes on,
Yeah,
then you might as well head for the hills. It'd be
yeah
like,
it's I don't know if you've ever seen the show Devs. It's like that show. Anyway, the show Devs is where they built a computer so great that it could go anywhere in the past and it could also predict the future. Yeah, it's actually a good show. What's up, Russell?
yeah,
How you doing, bro?
it's a good show until it becomes bad reality.
I mean, if it becomes reality, there's nothing you can do about it anyway, right?
There's always something. I think you learn anything from the movies is that no
Yeah.
matter how bad things get, there's always a Superman, there's always a Bruce Willis, there's always
Yeah,
a Charles
this random
Heston,
nobody that's gonna take over the world.
there's always somebody
Destroy
out
all
there
the
that
armies on Earth and take over the world. Michael Lives
there's
is
always
coming
a
out. Well, they're
Rambo.
working on it for sure. They're definitely working on it. Some things are here and some things are far away. And so some of the stuff that people think won't come is actually already here. And a lot of the stuff that people think will come is not even close. So it's kind of, it's always, again, that's always in flux too in terms of production and things like that.
Depends on what you're talking about,
Yep.
and yeah, and how much um, is out there, and it just depends on it just depends, man. Because when you were talking, I was thinking about how at one point we were talking about robots and stuff. He's like, yeah, I seen the robot dog at the Google picnic that I was at. You know,
Yeah. And
you
just think
remember
how many
that?
years ago that was.
Yeah, and that's
It
what
was
you
like,
that's what you can see.
yeah.
And
And go ahead.
and I'm thinking, when I was saying that, I was thinking about some of the books that I've read, like The Pentagon's Brain by Annie Jacobson, and some of her books that she wrote, and it's about the CIA and Area 51. We had a conversation about that. Now,
Yeah.
Area 51 was just 51. There was like hundreds of other areas that,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, that's just the one they let you know about or market or whatever. But there's other ones too, and
Of course.
I'm just thinking about all this stuff and how she was saying like the technology that we saw in the Gulf War and that we saw in some of these wars, all of that is old, outdated technology.
Oh yeah.
So if that's then what do they have now? Is what I'm thinking about.
Yeah. Some of Black Mirror is already here, bro. It's
A
what I said.
lot of
Some of
Black
it's
mirrors
here,
are.
some of it's coming. And so it's like it just it's crazy. Like you said, you talk about like Area 51 and those kinds of things. Like when you look at the realities that they're like literal underground cities and all of this kind of stuff in the U.S. And it's like, and just think about 2020 was so bad they released UFO information and nobody cared, right? you know,
No.
you know what I'm saying? It's like the Pentagon's like, oh yeah, all of that stuff was real. We'll just put it out in the midst of all of this so nobody even cares, right? And so it's just crazy.
But that's what they
What's up, Miss
always do. It's what
Charlene?
we talk about. We talk
Yeah,
about stuff that comes out and they put it on page 40 in the back at the bottom where nobody read.
yeah. And it's like it's just a blip in the news. Just like they show video clips and all.
We've been here the whole time, bruh. Watching
Exactly.
y'all.
It just think years ago they'd be like, nah, this stuff ain't real. It's like these people are tripping. It's like, oh yeah, it was real.
We just playing. We just playing with
Exactly.
y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
what. Yeah, Annie Jacobson's book. She talks about that how they operate and work as far as information and disinformation, psychological operations, the whole UFO thing. She talks. I don't give it away. You got to read her books. But in one of her books,
man,
she
give it
talks
away,
about.
man. Give it away. She ain't gonna
Nah,
lose no money off this podcast.
but I want you to read it because there's so much that you can learn as far as history and some of the things that is placed in the conspiracy theory box that is conspiracy documented facts. You know, so not everything is a theory. There are some things that can be substantiated or upheld with documentation, with documents. You
Yeah, I was
know,
trying to look for real quick since we got on this. It just made me think. What's up, Isaac? It made me think about the one guy. This was like I want to say back in Robert Kennedy's day, where he was presented himself before Congress that he was from, he was a UFO. He was from another planet and all of this type of. It was some white dude in a black suit. Like straight
huh?
up. I remember watching this like years ago. There's like nobody knew who he was, and he just showed up on the scene. So,
So he's a man in black.
I mean, he was wearing a black suit, but I guess everybody was back then.
Huh?
Said
I never heard
Octavia
that one.
Butler told us years ago. I don't even know who that is. Are you familiar with her?
Octavia Butler. No, I'm not familiar.
I have to look
Miles
her
is
up.
gonna have to explain that one. When you were talking, I was thinking about Bill Gates' smart city called Belmont that he's building
Yeah.
in Arizona. Just
Oh,
thinking about, huh?
gotcha. No, I was just looking up. She's an American science fiction author.
Okay, okay, yeah. Thinking about Bill Gates' city in Arizona, the smart city, and then I was thinking about Acorn's city in was it Senegal?
What? I'm
Acorn,
sorry.
Acorn, Acorn City,
Akon?
Acorn. Yeah.
Okay. This was like
Well,
Acorn. I was
well,
like, what's
well,
that?
Akon has the A coin.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
his name.
okay. I
His,
was like,
his
huh?
cryptocurrency is A coin.
Gotcha. Something like that. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, yeah. Well, I was thinking about Bill Gates' smart city when you were talking about some of these things that aren't well known, but you know, like the underground cities you were talking about, and then I was thinking about Bill Gates' smart city that nobody. It's not well known, but it's known. I was thinking about some other things that, like when I worked at Amazon.
Hmm.
I heard that he had a. I heard he had SpaceX, but at the time, no, not SpaceX. What's the other one?
Tesla?
No, Bezos.
Oh, just Bezos. You talking about the
Um,
clock?
no, he has a his goal is to build a hotel on the moon.
Okay.
Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, I've seen that. He said that they
Blue Origin.
Blue Origin.
Yeah. Now, when I heard about that a few years ago, nobody knew about it, but then it was kind of kept, kind of suppressed. But then a few years ago, it came out that he had it. He had a lab called Blue Origin that is building rockets, and he's looking to build a hotel on the moon. Um,
Yeah,
and
they just
his
had
whole
a press release 7 hours ago about Blue Origin.
really,
Yep,
dang,
it's the BE7 engine.
yeah. So he's going to build, and he's building. Amazon is the platform for the world to build on top of in order to launch to the next level as far as interplanetary uh, moving and stuff like that. That
Right.
that that's his whole vision as far as what the purpose of Amazon is. It's called the network. It's not called Amazon when you're on the inside. And the network is pretty much to eat up the whole world, and it grow into a platform that is to be used as a launching pad to go to the next level.
Yeah, it's almost the premise of devs.
Really?
Yeah, like yeah, it's a good show. It's worth watching. So
So
check it out.
is it fiction or fact? There's it doesn't sound like science fiction
Uh,
to me.
yeah, it's fiction that mirrors facts. You know, so I'll put it that way. It's fiction that mirrors fact in some ways. But yeah, it's real interesting concept because it's literally the same thing. I mean, I remember my brother. He sent me some stuff years ago. He was still in college, and I'm trying to think of how long he's been out of college. Uh, it was a PBS special talking about data, and oh, yeah, okay, I thought you was gone. and it was talking about data, and pretty much it was talking about Google's manifesto of collecting all information ever created. And so when you start looking at this stuff, you start looking at scale. And what's funny, I was telling my friend, we were talking about computers today. We're talking about, looking at new computers. And I was like, man, I can't wait. I was joking. I was like, I can't wait until computer systems become like Stadia, the Google gaming platform, to where I can just buy a $20 computer and they do all the processing on their end. I was joking, but the the reality of it is that stuff will probably come to fruition as well, only so they can obtain more information. And like you said, it's just a matter of waiting until those quantum computers, the theory of it actually comes into fruition to where they can now go through that backlog of information and just calculate whatever they need from it. Because right now we're at a deficit of data scientists that are able to actually, one, it's way too much information for the human power
Yeah.
right now. It's way too much, and then also is just figuring out ways to even get the gobs of information from one point to another. And so that's also an issue. And the reason why I say that, because I always talk about, sometimes on the show about when we went to a data scientist convention. It was more or less the presentation. But anyway, they were talking about how oil rigs have just truckloads of information on a daily basis, but only a small part of it is able to be processed, you know, get it from the oil rig back to where it can be computed, and then you got to decipher that information, so on and so forth. So when we talk about this stuff, it's not necessarily a play for now, it's a play for down the road. And even, you talked about the 1,000 year clock. We talked about that before as well, how, they're thinking 1,000 years ahead, and what all of this stuff could actually mean. And so, that's always the dichotomy of trying to figure out how to balance your now versus how to plan for the future.
Huh. So what are some practical things when it comes to our personal life? Um, when it
Okay,
comes to
that's
thinking
how we're
about
doing,
some of these, when it comes to thinking about some of these things and allowing ourselves to be creatives that we are designed to be. I believe that every individual that is on this, live, and that, between me and you and just people in general, that we all have a purpose, and we have all have an intentional design.
man.
And I think we all are embedded with so many different software programs in
Yep.
our DNA that is honed teach to each and every one of us as an individual. And so when thinking about this, how do we consider and think about this when it comes to just living an everyday, fulfilled, practical life? Um,
Yeah.
like you were talking about the 1,000 year clock.
Yep.
How do I think about that when it comes to just my personal life? Like,
Just
for example, thinking about Jeff Bezos, he's on that 1,000 year horizon clock, which it is motivating and shaping and influencing his behavior today.
yep.
So so what he thinks about tomorrow is shaping the things that he does today. Not only him, but just thinking about some other groups and things that we talk about, to where uh, things are planned in 50, 100 year, multi 100 year plans and cycles. And that's what shapes a lot of some of the groups and individuals out, the social engineers out there, and what they do today.
Yeah, but that again, so I'll talk about it on a practical level,
Yes.
even a religious level, right? So,
Okay. Yeah.
so we're both Christians,
Yeah.
and so when you look at it from a scripture standpoint, the scripture is always about future planning, right? It's
Yeah.
always about the kingdom that's coming. So on the one hand, so if you focus on the kingdom that's coming, it dictates your actions and realities now to
The
get to
kingdom
that.
that is and coming.
Yeah, but that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying,
Yeah.
because it forces you to dictate your actions currently, right? And
Yes.
so it's really future planning. I don't know how many people think of it that way, but it's really just future planning. It's like, okay, this is, we talk about storehouses and all of that type stuff. It talks about it from the physical level, the natural level, but it's really just getting you to think about the future, right? About things to come and all of that kind of stuff. And so at the same time, talking about, these 1,000 year clocks and thinking ahead and all of that, just from a practical standpoint, just be open to information, right? Stay curious, stay diligent for one. We talked about keeping track of time and all of that. And like I said, anybody that's watching the the live feed or whatever, leave a comment if you want. Like I made a time tracker to where you can actually see what you're doing through your day. It's just a spreadsheet. It's nothing complicated or anything like that. But if you want that, let me know. I'll put the link. But anyway, just practical stuff like that is like, okay, what can I do today to help me plan for tomorrow? Just say 2 weeks from now. Okay, 2 weeks from now, I want to be able to do 30 push-ups on one hand. It ain't gonna happen for me, but I'm just saying. So what I would do is I would, on a daily basis, I would just practice doing one-handed push-ups. It's literally that simple. So when you start thinking about, all the stuff we started talking about, like, these the quantum computing, the information about going to other planets and all of that type stuff, just leave yourself open to just look at some of that information. Okay, I'll post that, Isaac. But yeah, so just leave yourself open to grow. So I'll use
Okay.
myself as an example. When I like every day I wake up, I think about what I have to do for the day, right? I'm trying to crack my way into this entertainment industry in terms of developing content and animations and all of that. So what I do is I just wake up with a mind to learn. And what that means is I'll go on sometimes some days I have set things I'm going to learn. I'll line up, everything I'm learning is online. So I'll line up some tutorials maybe, or I'll listen to a podcast, or I'll just like today, for example, I was just jumping around from information to information. I was reading about new software. I was reading about everything. It wasn't just the entertainment industry. I was reading about software. I was reading about laws and policies. I was reading about um, investments. I was reading about just watching people like I was reading about new streaming platforms and how those work. Is it worth trying out? Just a whole bunch of little things, but it was my intention was to set aside time just to learn, just to stay curious, just to read, just to see what's happening in certain markets, all of that kind of stuff. And so the way you start future proofing yourself is is just is really just taking in, just leaving yourself open to gather in more information. That's it. And it's like and it's just a matter of just really just not even trying to consume the whole elephant. It's just taking those small bites, right? And then you'll realize that you will have the capacity to take in more. And that's one of the things that I've learned over the years in terms of just doing business and just hustling, right? Just to make it. It's like pretty much everything I've done since I've got out of school has been learning on the job, so to speak. And the job is life. And that's really the case for all of us. We learn as we go, but sometimes we just don't pay attention. There's lots of information that we download on a daily basis. We just don't pay attention to what that information is, or we're not intentional about that information, right? And so just make sure that you're intentional about the information that you gather in, and you never know when you'll be able to use it later. Said great coincidence comes with that, a sense of security.
Confidence.
Yeah. All great. Yeah, confidence. I said coincidence.
Mhm.
Yeah. And again, it's just I brought this up at one point, but a guy that I used to work with, he was the VP of the company. He used to say the uninformed inflame. And basically those that don't know just blow stuff up because they just make up stuff, and right. And
Yeah.
so the best thing that you can do sometimes is just to inform yourself as much as possible. There's always going to be a lot that you don't know.
Yeah,
It's just what it is. It's like I can talk about all the theories I have about President Trump or his cabinet and all of these other things, but in reality, the majority of us don't know because we're not there. We can speculate, we can make best guesses, hypotheses, and theories, but until you've been there or until you get the knowledge firsthand, which most people don't get knowledge firsthand nowadays, then you're just taking your best guess, your best stab at it, and those kinds of things. So that's why I'm always trying to temper my reactions to some things because I know I don't know. I know there's a gap of information there that I do not know.
man,
So
that's very self-aware, and that's very crucial. What you just said in today's world, just acknowledging and realizing the gap, the knowledge gap between actually being there and
yeah,
finding primary sources and things that you can depend on. Man, that's very that. I had a conversation. We've had this conversation too about a lot of the things that we quote unquote know is based on what listening
yeah,
and other people's experience and having
yeah,
faith and trust in that versus firsthand experience and seeing it for yourself with your own eyes. Like you
yeah,
said, which is very important that we spend the time, like Mike said, to invest in ourselves and spend that time to continually be consuming and educating. Yeah, but ego can always get in the way. Yeah, we talk about that too a lot too, as far as ego and humbling ego yourself, or life has a way of humbling your ego for you.
yeah.
Um,
Very true.
so ego management is definitely important when it comes to like you said, realizing and acknowledging and being self-aware enough to know that there is always a knowledge gap that we have to take in consideration, especially
Yep.
when it comes to just anything with respect to what's put out there today.
Most things, if you think about it, because we come into contact, like for example, I'll just juxtapose us to some like a bushman, right? In the Kalahari, right?
Yeah,
So their environment is more simplistic than ours in terms of the things that they come into contact with.
it's based more on nature or reality,
Well,
maybe.
it's not even that. It's just based more in nature. It's just one is just proximity, right? It's proximity in terms of proximity to other people. They live in very like isolated
Secluded. Yeah.
pockets. So one they literally come into less contact with people for one. So the more people you come into contact with, there's less you know about each one of those people you come into contact. And then not only that, we live in a manufactured world in the U.S. and the fact that everything in our environment, for the most part, unless you live out in the middle of Alaska somewhere, is manufactured. Somebody made it and produced it, right? And so with that comes meaning I can look at my desk right now, all this stuff on my desk, and I don't know what's in it. I don't know what's in any of that stuff because I didn't make any of it. So I have to trust that this stuff is not killing me as I speak right now. I
Man,
have
it's
to
funny you said that.
yeah, I have to
That's
trust
really
that
cool.
the toxins and all of this kind of stuff. I have to trust that that me talking into this microphone, me looking at you on the screen, and all of these other little gadgets around me don't kill me on the spot, right? I'm just trusting based off of I wanted it, right? That's really it. So when we talk about information gaps, the majority of us, 99.5% of us cannot make everything that we have in our environments. We just can't. And so there's knowledge gaps there. And this goes back to what we talked about, where you can be a leader in one area and be in one environment, but in another environment, you're a novice, right? Because everybody can't be an expert at everything. And so there's a level of faith that we have to have in some things, but again, we always have to acknowledge the fact that there's a gap in our knowledge, there's a gap in our information, there's a gap in the things that we argue about, and if we're not aware of that, or if we're not truthful about it, then then we're gonna burn a lot of bridges for no reason sometimes. So anyway,
Man, I know this is kind of a sidebar, a side trail, but when you said toxins and trusting, that made me think about the clip that I sent you earlier today with
Yeah, yeah.
respect to what's her name? Harriet Washington. She wrote the book Medical Apartheid: The Dark History of Medical Experimentation on Black Americans from Colonial Times to the Present. And she was on Dr. Mike Hyman's podcast a while back, and I watched it. And that clip was from a while back, but I read her book before that. And in her book, she goes into detail about how she doesn't say it in this exact way, but
Yeah.
how blacks have an ingrained attitude of caution and fear when it comes to the medical system in general.
Oh yeah.
She doesn't really say it in that way, but
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
way I'm
No,
saying it.
trust me, I get it.
Yeah, yeah. And in the book, she documents why, you know, and some of the things that was done in the past and that is continually going on now, in the black, not only in the black community, but just in general, that the things that we aren't aware of and we're trusting of
Yeah,
speaks to the importance of what Mike said as far as uh, investment and spending time, pursuing our self education about some of the things that is in our world, in our lives. Because like you said, ignorance, well, you didn't say it in this way, but ignorance is not bliss when it comes to the modern world, our modern manufactured world. Especially right now, I'm thinking about some of the things that's going on right now in the year 2020, and some of the things that's out there as far as the information saying that where things are headed, as far as the trajectory that we're on, and that it's not good to be so trusting and so ignorant when it comes to the knowledge gap.
yeah,
So
yeah.
hopefully I'm not sounding negative, but I'm having
No,
a
no, no.
lack of
I got you.
way of
So
putting
we talked about this the other night. Lamar, he did a room, uh, and so Isaac actually talked about this. Isaac Nash Bay. I don't know if he's still watching now,
it.
but
Okay,
anyway,
okay.
he made mention of again this goes back to community, which is huge. Is because like I said, in one environment you can have mastery, but as soon as you leave that environment, your mastery leaves with you in terms
Yeah,
of how you cope. Like I could be an expert on, civil engineering and how things work in a concrete city. But if I going back to the Bushman scenario, I go to the Kalahari, I've never been there. I don't know how things work there. I don't know what I'm supposed to eat, what I'm not supposed to eat, right? So there, the Bushman has the mastery, right? So anyway, uh, what Isaac mentioned in terms of community is, we have to start developing, cultivating relationships with people that have domain knowledge on certain things. We were talking specifically about the vaccine, pros, cons, and everything in between. And one of the cons is the fact that we simply don't know. We have no clue what's in it. We don't know. We don't have the means to analyze it, anything like that. But if we had somebody that was a domain expert in that field, then we would put our trust in that person to tell us what's actually in it, because everything is, when you talk about an exchange of information, there's a level of trust and faith that have to go in it.
yeah,
We trust and put faith in things from people we never met ever. We will never meet some of these people. When I talked about all the stuff on my desk, I've never met any of the people that made any of this stuff, right? But I put my trust in them that the products that they make are going to work, so on and so forth. So we have to put faith and trust, find people that we can put our faith and trust in so they can be our representatives, the watchmen in any given area, right? So we have medical watchmen, we have, legal watchmen, we have all kinds of things that this life brings at us. We have different people that can address those different issues. And that's the value of community. And when you start straying away from that and become an individual and isolate yourself away from the group or the pack, then you leave yourself vulnerable in so many ways. It ain't just about people shooting and all of that. It's way bigger than that. It's knowledge gap on one. Okay, this person knows about rights and REIT and insurance and laws and things like that, so I can help plan my future for my family. because if I don't know that information, I need to know somebody that does, that can help me plan those hundreds of years ahead.
Man, when you were talking, you made me think of nine forms. I think it's called the nine forms of wealth, if I'm not mistaken, and how when you have a community, it's the eight forms of wealth. Hold up, 10 forms. It's different forms of wealth. It's
He's
just
like,
not.
numbers.
Yeah, it depends on what list you're looking at, who's saying it, but there's more forms of wealth when it comes to, like you said, community, other than just we often focus
Like
on or
right
go
now.
to money, but there's skills. People. There's somebody who has a whole variety of skills.
Oh yeah.
Um, as far as wealth, there's knowledge, wealth. There's all kinds of different forms. Well, we talked about it uh, a while back, as far as what is it that we all can bring to the table when it comes to community,
Yeah.
um, that can be of benefit. Like you said, no man or woman is an island, especially in today's world. You cannot be an island in today's world and expect to get too far. We've talked about this in the past, and uh, one of the sites that I used to read a lot was uh,
Okay.
shtf.com. You know what
What
it
you mean
means?
still? No.
It's
Oh yeah, yeah.
it's
I got.
stuff hits the fan.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm sure my wife is a part of that group or site or whatever.
Knows about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just found it interesting because I was just the person who runs that site or made it or started it, um, grew up in dang, what was that, Ukraine or whatever, over in Europe when they started Yugoslavia, when they started falling apart. And he
Hmm.
talked about what happens when society breaks down, and he talked about some of the popular scenarios that if you never lived through anything like that, we have these ideas about what we would do. Oh yeah, I do this and do that. And he's like, nah, none of that works in real life when it comes to going through scenarios like that. And one of the things that comes up is, like he talks about, is the importance of community and the importance of numbers, and that the lone wolf doesn't last too long
Yeah.
in situations like in environments like that. He
It's
talks about the importance,
it,
huh?
sorry, just real quick. It's just like in the movie. Unlike the movies, if you get
Yeah.
gained by people, you're gonna get beat up. You're not taking on 20 people. You're doing good if you can take on two.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, you ain't gonna make it, bro. That's just
Yeah.
because you can only do so many things at once, and that's the reality of it.
But don't believe the karate movies.
Nah, not
No,
at
the
all.
wrong tough
Yeah,
dude.
they gonna have you hurting.
Ain't nobody coming to save me.
Oh no, bro. You gonna end up like Daniel Larusso in Karate Kid. He just got mopped. It's like, but anyway,
They got new Karate Kid shows though to come on though. You been seeing those on
yeah.
Amazon?
No, I haven't seen them, but yeah,
They
but
still go
it's
back
just
and forth, man.
like any of that stuff, right? Because I always tell people, like if kids understood their power, like in classrooms, uh, you could literally get mauled by a group of 5 year olds, like literally, like seriously, because if it's like 30 to 1, you can't beat them all. It's
No, I don't know, man.
nah,
You put
it's just
35 year olds on me.
nah, it's just after you mop the first one, they gonna get scared. But it's just the numbers game. It's the sheer weight of 30 or 40 kids on top of you will crumble you. So, but again, it's just again
We should
just
put that to test then, man. Do that
yeah,
on pay per
find the
view.
roughest 5 year olds ever that don't give a crap about taking a punch to the
No, man,
head.
don't do that. You gonna go.
But yeah, man. But that's the thing. So it's like if you go at it alone, and nobody truly does in this society. People think they do sometimes, but they really don't. You have a lot of people that their ego and pride get in the way, and they think that they're self-made and they've done all of this stuff by themselves. But nah, it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, it's one of the lessons that I had to learn is that um, You need help. You need friends. You need
Yeah,
yeah, nobody makes it or gets through this life far alone.
yeah, you
Um,
can't. I mean, because think about it. If you leave a baby alone, they turn feral. They
yeah.
cannot communicate with people beyond a certain age, right? If they've been left alone so long, and so anybody that can talk, walk, and do anything, then they had other people help them. And it's like if they say they didn't, then you know not to trust them with anything.
Hmm. Well, that's all I got, man.
Wrap it up, brother.
Dang. Is it well? Let me check. Is there anything anybody out there that has anything to say or has something they want
Mal
to
said just contribute. Uh,
contribute?
and that's one thing. Just going back when you, I'm glad she said that when you were talking about, we all have something, and really, all it takes is effort. Because the if you work with a bunch of people, if everybody's just putting in effort, regardless of how big or small you think your effort is, if you're honestly trying to put in effort, then you basically hold your spot of value, if that makes sense. If
Yes.
if you're not somebody that's trying to sabotage or like willfully trying to get out of helping, then you're a value add to the group. So always keep that in mind, because again, it's going back to we talked about scriptures earlier. Just God searches the reins of the heart, because that's really what it boils down to. If somebody has a heart to help, a heart to contribute, those kinds of things, that goes a lot further than the actual sometimes the results. So just keep that in mind, that you do have something to offer. If you get in a group of people or in a community, just make sure that you give your best effort to improve. Just you trying to improve yourself adds value to the community as a whole, and just be willing to share the information that you've gained along the way.
Man, that's very important. That's a good note to kind of end on is contribute, which is one of the four C's that I often bring up as far as Dr. David Lustig and the four C's of contentment, um, talking about contribute and doing something to outside of yourself, just being of service,
Yep.
just making yourself useful, and just like you said, having a heart to be of use,
Yep.
and just realizing that everybody on the planet has something in some way, shape, or form to contribute, which oftentimes our cultures kind of makes us feel that way, that we really don't have anything
Yep.
to offer. If you listen to some of the negative tones of our culture, you will end up sick, depressed,
All of it.
anxious, fearful, bitter, unforgiving, hateful. You will end up just a miserable person, not able, thinking that you're not worth anything, that you can't contribute anything. So just acknowledging that and realizing it, meditating on it, that you may not think that you have something to offer, but you do. And it's up to each and every one of us to find that, cultivate it, and realize it and bring it to fruition, and just grow it as much as we can. Um,
Yep.
my what I contribute,
Like,
what
he
I
on
think I could,
it.
yeah, I know. But as long as I can make you smile, that's my contribution.
Hey, it's big though. Seriously, it's like because I was thinking before you said that something as simple as giving somebody a hug can go a long way, right?
Man, yeah,
Just somebody love, and so when we start, again focusing on those things, just making sure that you're just trying to be of service to other people. That's really what life is about. In essence, serving other people, continuing on the progeny and all of that kind of stuff, but it's really just human interaction. Stuff aside, human interaction is what this life is truly about.
amen. So that's all I got today, Leif. Just talking about, we started off talking about the practice, the book by Seth Godin, and just talked about how, each and every one of us has something to contribute and has something to offer, and we all are creatives in our own way, and um, it's our obligation or responsibility to find whatever it is that we can offer and hone it, cultivate it, and put it out there for somebody else to receive and maybe
Yep.
take that and do something with it, whether you realize it or not, or whether you think it or not. We all have something worthwhile to offer to
Yep.
the world. That's why you're
Cool.
here. So, two shy guys at a mic. Thank you for spending your time with us, paying us a little bit of attention. Hopefully, you get a return on your investment that is worth your while. And we definitely appreciate your participation. We definitely appreciate you just stopping in and just spending time with us. So that's all we got.
Yep. And I'll post that time tracker in the Two Shot Guys group, as well as eventually it'll be on my site, but that won't be anytime soon. Lafespace.com, but we'll get that up. Anyway, take care, everybody. We appreciate you. Thanks for stopping by. If we shared any information that you like, definitely share us with other people. Two Shy Guys and a mic, and we're signing out.
Peace.
Peace.